It's not hard to make decisions when you know what your values are. And this is something that was coined by Roy Disney. Welcome to a moment to pause, where today we're going to take you on a journey called the House of Alignment. And this will be slightly different than in the episodes that we had because I will take you through a house of alignment.
Welcome. This episode of Moment to Pause is about values, about being aligned with your values. And Karolina is a pro here because she's an alignment coach. So she'll lead us through an exercise to find out where your misalignment might be coming from. What we want to cover here is what values are, and not just these buzzwords, but how they guide your decisions, how they affect your energy and your emotions, and what it means to feel misaligned and how misalignment feels in your body. I will also talk a little bit about misalignment burnout, and we are talking about this so you can notice it much sooner, because again, awareness and uncovering of the root cause is always the best strategy for a sustainable change.
Well, so why not go ahead and get started? Let's walk through a journey and be able to identify what is not the right fit. If I go back throughout my career, as many of you probably have been on a similar journey, we have been in roles that actually don't feel quite right. And that is the perfect indicator. And if I think back throughout my career, there's one position that I remember I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a great challenge. I'm going to learn new skills. And it wasn't that there was anything wrong with the position. It just didn't align with what I loved. I've been in the data world for years. Years. And I was thinking, hey, maybe it's time to try something new. And I figured a couple of the skills that I wanted to learn is public speaking, presenting, PowerPoint, since I'm already inundated in the Microsoft Excel space, which I still love. I was thinking, let me just take a little bit of a pause to see what else is out there. Whenever I was going through my journey, I saw, account management. That sounds fantastic. This is wherever I could develop my public speaking because I'll have clients and I'll also be able to develop my PowerPoint skills. Super excited about the role. I love the connection that I had with the clients, but one thing that I noticed that was missing was the data component. Yes, I received data to put into a PowerPoint, but it wasn't me that was creating the story. So further down, whenever I was a couple months into the position, I realized this feels like there's something missing. Those are signals. Those are signals that, yes, this means that it's not the correct role for me. What I realized during that time was I missed nothing against PowerPoint. I can still do PowerPoint slides, but I missed Excel. I missed digging into the data, creating the story so that account managers, sales representatives, leadership can get insights from that. So during that time, even though I wanted to try something new and I did get those critical skills, it just didn't align where I needed to be. And that leads me to these little nudges or these little inklings that through, whether it's at a role, whether it's in conversations, those are just indicators that there's some kind of a misalignment there. So I don't know, Jana, if you have any stories that could relate to this, whether from your coaching clients or from your personal life, please feel free to share.
I definitely do relate to your story when you missed Excel and spreadsheets, because I am also like, I always feel calm when I get to play with some numbers. Yeah, and the simple joy of creating the perfect formulas. I don't know if anyone can relate, but I totally could relate to your stories.
Absolutely. And thank you for confirming that. This is what we're talking about. So to Jana's point, some people align with certain things and others do not. So this is just a perfect example of figuring out, hey, this is what I like. And if you don't like Excel, that's totally cool. And if you prefer PowerPoint, but literally, this is just an example to let you know that there's certain things that you like versus disliking them.
Okay, what are values? Values are basically the things that you care about, and you care about them so deeply that they influence you. They influence your decisions, how you spend your time, what feels right for you, or what feels wrong. And they're basically like your real life priorities, and they guide you in your lives, what to say yes to, what to say no to, what to avoid. and they help you, and they give you this sense of meaning, and either the sense of ease or the sense of discomfort when something is not aligned.
I think that's a perfect definition, Yana. It's more like little guides that tell you, are you headed in the right direction, or do you need to take a step back and reframe, or you need to take a step back and to read the situation. So I would say that they're like little nudges to tell you if you're headed in the right direction. Awesome. So now, are you ready to go through this little mystical journey? So I know we're doing something a little bit different, but I wanted to take you through the framework. I know the typical practice whenever it is for figuring out your values is to take a look at a spreadsheet of 20. I have nothing against spreadsheets. As you already know, me and Yana, we love our Excel stuff. But what I wanted to do is something slightly different. I wanted to probe and ask 3 questions to help see what values are. And we're trying to simplify it as much as possible instead of looking at that whole sheet of all the values and see what we come up with. So the first question we'll be reflecting here together as a group. What has been bothering you lately? And I'll give you a few seconds pause. And I want you to either think about it, write your thoughts down, or say it out loud if you're in a safe space, whatever works for you. But the question is, what has been bothering you most lately?
Okay, so if I may start, you may not know this, but my Substack blog is called The Unhustled Life. And the reason why it's called The Unhustled Life is I'm quite bothered by the hustle culture. And because the hustle culture wants us to always do more, be more, produce more, wake up earlier and earlier to improve your routine and basically fit more into your days. So I'm bothered by the hustle culture, and that's also the reason why our podcast is called not moment to do more, but a moment to pause. And but what I wanted to highlight, or what's coming to mind now, also in this holiday season, because the hustle culture doesn't just promote this idea of creating your own business, being an entrepreneur, or climbing the corporate ladder. It brings this busyness to our lives. And this busyness in the holiday season also kind of shows us or forces us to do more, to prepare harder for Christmas, to prepare more for this time of the year that should actually be about less of these things that are forced on us, and should be more about the things that are coming from inside. So I think that this is like Christmas and what's come with late November, December, and this season in a year is a perfect example where misalignment can show up.
2 things. We didn't coordinate these outfits, just so that you know. I know this is more like Smear. I have the green. Jana has the red. But another thing that I did want to call out, definitely check out her blog. I think it's phenomenal. I've been reading all the issues. Definitely check it out. And just from that answer alone, you can already see her value was in a sense listed because unhustled life. So hustle is something that doesn't align with Jana. It's more having the freedom, the flexibility. So you can see just from answering such a simple question as to what's bothering you, you can get a sense of what you value versus not. So for me, if I were to say I've been in the corporate environment for quite some time, I work best with leaders that provide that flexibility. With micromanagers, for instance, it's harder for me to work with them because they tell me exactly how things need to be done. I value more flexibility, empowerment, somebody that allows me to do the work and entrusts me. So just by me answering that question, saying I don't work well with micromanagers, tells me that I need that freedom, that empowerment, that flexibility, because that more aligns with my best working style and with what I truly value. It could be little words, it could be specific events, it could be situations. This just helps gauge as to what is misaligned. All right, perfect. Now we're on to question number 2. So what do you want more of? What do you want more of?
So what could be seen also, like from the first response is that I would like people to see more freedom in their lives, and right now. Not just from next Monday or next year. I know it's around the corner. But if you miss January 1st, like what's the rest year going to look like for you? Are you still going to wait for the next January the 1st? That's why I always add to some of these reflection questions right now. What does more freedom mean is to open our eyes to see where is what we have already enough of. It connects nicely with the gratitude episode that we covered, and it is connected also with the first point that hustle culture will always leave us wanting more, or leaves us feeling in some ways insufficient. But if we want more freedom, we need to learn how to feel enough already as we are right now. Because this helps us see like where we are already free. How can I enjoy this moment more, and not just what more I need to do to be able to enjoy this moment, but just turn around the question a little bit to enjoy and get closer to what we value in this exact moment.
Love that. I think that's a beautiful example as to what you value. And even from the first question, you could gauge. So thank you, Jana, for sharing that freedom is one of the values that she has, because you can pick that up from what you don't like the hustle culture, to more what do you want more of, which is freedom. And for me, if I can add to it, for me, travel is definitely what I want more of. As I look out this window right here, I see snow. I am not a fan of snow. So for me, this came very easily. What do I want more of? Sunshine, the beach, literally anything but whatever I'm looking at outside. But this just lets me know as what do I like? What do I like a lot? What do I want more of? So this is just a great example of how to think about values from that perspective. So thank you so much for sharing that, Jana. So that leads us to our third question. What's been tiring you out lately? Or another way to put it, what's been draining your energy?
So I'm talking about the hustle culture a lot, and like I am not immune. Even though my Christmas fairy tale would be full of snow, not like the sunny one of Karolina, I'm not immune. I know what my values are. Seeing everyone running to finish the year strong, to be everywhere, to prepare the perfect Christmas. It's very tiring to just even think about it for me. Because this is the mental load. And I think that my past experience with burnout has something to do with this, because I can feel the mental load a little heavier than I used to before. And even though I can distinguish between internal and external pressures, there is always this question hidden, like what can I do better to, for example, make this season special and enjoyable? But what I'd like to remind all of us, that the question can also be reframed like, what can we do less of to make this season special and more enjoyable?
Ooh, I love that. Always when New Year's starts, we always think, what can we add to the list? Instead of, like, to Jana's point, what can we do or what can we subtract from? And I think in the hustle culture, if I could speak from experience, we think, how do we get more efficient? What else can I add to my schedule? What book can I read? What tool can I implement? Instead of taking a step back and thinking, what can I subtract from my life that doesn't align with where I'm headed? That would create the space for what I want to do next. And I think sometimes that reframe, it doesn't come from the perspective of let's subtract something. It comes from the perspective of let's add something new to the list. So I think that's a phenomenal point. So to everyone that's listening, these are the types of questions that I like to ask my coaching clients to figure out what exactly are your values, what do you like, what do you dislike, what do you want more of, but also what drains your energy. And these are great indicators to figure out what some of your values are. And don't worry, I could still give you the full list of all the values out there and you can select the ones, but these questions help gauge and help you understand.
I just wanted to say that to understand ourselves better, we need to dive deeper. I understand that misalignment might sound intangible, but it is real. You really can feel it in your body. Noticing some energy leaks or some chronic tension on, or feeling this feeling of that your energy is off or something feels off in your life, or you cannot explain that you're still very fatigued. These might be the signs of your misalignment. And the reason is that the brain craves coherence between beliefs and behavior. And so when your action do not correlate with your beliefs, with your values, it deepens this gap between beliefs and behavior. This can even lead to misalignment burnout. I mentioned it in the beginning, I think, that this is just one type of burnout. This is a little different from the burnout in the more standard sense, which is connected to overwork, most usually. And misalignment can feel like this difference between I should do this versus I want to do this. So what you feel you should be doing, but don't really feel like this is something that comes from you, that you really want it because you value it or because it is truly important for you. And so this can even show you the direction or the difference between the values that come from you, from inside, the one that you choose yourself, and the ones that you think you should want or you should have, between the ones that you simply have from others, from society, from parents. It doesn't matter. But sometimes there can be a misalignment between those two, like sources of values. And sometimes misalignment can be even disguised as productivity. And this is again in the form of this hustle culture and overworking and kind of wearing this badge of honor that I am the busy one. I am always working the most. I am always working too much. And the next part of Karolina's exercise that she'll lead us through can help you even uncover deeper insights, which will again help you to notice whether there might be a misalignment in your life.
All right, so now we are into the visual part of the podcast. So bear with me. I know you might be thinking, oh my goodness, where's this headed? Don't worry. I am your guide and I'm going to guide you through this. But I want you to use your imagination a little bit here. So I like using metaphors, and this is why the title of this podcast is The House of Alignment. I'm going to take you through, since we're limited on time, I don't want to take you through the whole house. We're going to specifically focus on a few rooms, and then I'll take you through a visualization. As you can tell, I love books, so of course we have to start with a library. And what I want you to do is I want you to envision, whether it's this library behind me or a library that you visit, or honestly, any type of library that you either resonated with or whatever you want to envision in your mind. And I want you to think about what kind of books will you have on your bookshelves. And I'm not talking about regular books. I'm talking about whether it's patterns that you keep repeating, whether it's stories that you keep telling yourselves, whether they're positive or negative, or whether it's some beliefs. And to Jana's point, she mentioned, is there something that maybe our parents told us that we had to do, or our friends or society? Are those books on your bookshelf? Or it's words such as worthiness or perfectionism, or maybe rest. I want you to visualize those books in your mind. Maybe it is real books. It doesn't matter. It's just what resonates with you, whether they're positive or negative, that you've been carrying around.
Okay, so basically you want us to create this library that already exists, whether it's good or kind of more on the negative side, right?
Exactly. So I want you to visualize what kind of books would be in your personal mind library. So think about it through that. What are the patterns that you repeat? What are the typical language of how you speak to yourself? Is there a specific book that lists down everything that you say to yourself, whether it's positive or negative? So what comes to mind whenever you're visualizing these books? And I'll give a quick example. If you listen to my quitting episode, I really struggled with the concept of worthiness. So that would be one book on my bookshelf that I struggled with. Right now, let me tell you, in my mind, I envision it weathered because I already went through that space, but it was something that took up space in my mind. And now the second part of where I want you to lead through this visualization is what book no longer aligns. What story or pattern you no longer want on that bookshelf. And I want you to visualize you taking that off your bookshelf. And whether your preferred method is throwing it out, shredding it, or burning it, there is no judgment here. Me burning, since I do have a fireplace outside. But for you, I want you to visually imagine something that no longer aligns, that you don't want to repeat. Whether for me it's worthiness, whether it's overcoming burnout, or overcoming perfectionism, or speaking negatively. Jana talks about positive self-talk and its importance. Maybe there's some books on your mind bookshelf that no longer align with who you want to be. I want you to visually take it off the bookshelf and dispose of it.
Yes, so definitely dispose of the book that's called My Inner Critic, with all the self-doubts that it consists of. And one other thing is that Karolina mentioned some patterns. These patterns, like people-pleasing or perfectionism, for example, can also show up the misalignment. And this is the misalignment that tends to repeat. That's why they're patterns. And so, for example, people-pleasing happens when belonging becomes more important for you than your own authenticity. And perfectionism is when your true values hide behind the fear of judgment. So throw these books out.
Yes, love that. Now, and I love this, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a challenge. Now that you have the space in your library mind, what book would you replace it with? What's something that you want to have more of in your life? And we did a little bit of this in the exercise. Or what, instead of being the inner critic, what positivity can you incorporate now and add back on your bookshelf?
Yeah, so for example, exchange the inner critic for a supportive coach, like being your own supportive coach.
Yep, as you can see, this is Jana's book right here in terms of positivity. So I love that. But this is more a visual exercise for you and the library in your mind, since mind is something that we use all day long. We have thousands, if not millions of thoughts that go through our mind daily. And we wanted to do this exercise to make you aware of what really is sitting there and what needs replacement. So thank you, Jana, for participating in this part in the library of the mind. And now we're going to move over to the second part. And this is going to be a reflection, whether you want it to be a garage space or a basement space or any space wherever you do your work. For our purposes, we're going to be envisioning a workshop, and that's just a reflection of what kind of work you're doing. So is there something on that workbench that's still either you're working on or you're trying to finish, or something that was left there sitting? What comes to mind whenever you're thinking about your workspace?
I can only think of my unfinished projects.
Trust me, I doubt you are the only one. I have a whole bunch of not only unfinished projects, unfinished books that I was like, I'm going to read those. Yes, they're still sitting on that workbench. But the purpose of this exercise isn't to get down on yourself and saying, oh, what is out there? It's to think about what Jana said. What do you want to subtract? Do you really have to finish those projects? And this is why I wanted to take this time to think about what's sitting on that workbench that we no longer need, that we don't need to finish. I know we have always such phenomenal goals, but those were set maybe in a different season of your life. Maybe they don't need to be there, pestering you or overlooking you if they're no longer aligned. And that's why we wanted you to visualize this and think through, do all those projects need to be complete? Has something shifted within this past year? So we want you to give yourself permission. You don't need permission from us. You give yourself permission to dust off that workspace, remove some projects that no longer align, so you can make space for something that does.
What's the next room that you want to introduce?
All right, the next room, and this is our last one, and it is a garden. And this is a reflection of all the relationships that we have, whether they're in our personal life, professional life, or literally even online. If you think about that, I want you to envision your garden. You're going to have places where your flowers are blooming. You're going to have spaces wherever there's some dried out flowers on the corner. You're going to have some weeds. And I want you to envision them as relationships. Some are flourishing, some are so not, some of are even plucked out or weeds are pulled out. I want you to take a look at your garden and I want you to think about that one person that maybe the plant is growing very ever so slowly that you want to water more. What is one relationship that you want to nurture more?
It's also a great question to get your kind of values aligned again, also for this Christmas season. So, what are the relationships that you want to take care of this Christmas season? And not just because it's Christmas, but because you value them, you feel strongly that they need a little more care from you.
Absolutely. This, you just triggered an idea. Do you know how whenever you go to any type of social event, they're like, oh, we should get together and nothing happens? I am offering you a mini challenge. When you hear something this holiday season saying, hey, we should get together, why don't you just set up that time on the calendar? Literally, it takes 2 extra seconds because if you really intend it, unless you're just saying it to be nice, that's a whole different story. But if you really intend to meet up with them, just set up some time in a future date saying, hey, let's just set up something on the calendar for now so that we have it. Whenever it comes closer to that, we can always reconnect and say, hey, is this still a good time? But take that extra step to be able to connect with that person. That's what I do. And especially I'm going to bring in the topic of networking here. At the end of a networking coffee chat, I always set up the next coffee chat. And we don't know what's going to happen in the next quarter, but the closer it gets, it still stays on your calendar, meaning it's more likely to get done.
Yeah, and this is a great idea. And honestly, I always try to do this. And like when someone brings this question, I'm always like, okay, when's the right time? You might know that, okay, now this is busy few weeks, so you can say that, okay, let's do it in a month. If you feel like this relationship needs more attention, just go for it. Even a small step toward the other person already means so much and can bring a true difference.
Absolutely. Honestly, even a simple message. We have so much technology now. You can even put on a text message to send in the future. So even if you forget, you're like, oh yeah, how's it going? You can set up some time during the week or during the time that you even have the conversation with the person and just said, I'm following up. Let's send this in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This way you can still create those relationships, especially with those that you're like, hey, I haven't spoken to this person in a while. Let's reach out to see what's happening. Trust me, life gets busy, as we all know. Just getting even a simple hi or a link to something just makes the other person feel more valued. I have a relationship with a friend that I knew since I think grammar school, and we don't talk that often, but whenever I see a message come through, it always makes me smile. It's either a YouTube link or something that they saw. It's just nice to see that even though you don't communicate every day, you still have that open communication channel. So it's these little things that make such a world of a difference.
Exactly. So let's get back to values.
That was our exercise. So thank you so much for letting us take you through this journey. So just reflect back and think about, what story did you replace in your library? What project needs to be subtracted? And what relationship needs to be nourished? And there's great books that are out there, great resources like The Power of Now. I'm sure that there's so many different exercises and books that you could read on it. And even you can look at the spreadsheet of all the core values if you need a refresher and say, that's the word, that's what I was looking for. But this just leads you through how to identify what your core values are.
If you want to look at it from more of a practical daily standpoint, you can always ask yourself, what does your calendar say about your values? Is it the same way you would like it to be? Does your calendar, the time that you invest into various areas of your life, does it reflect the values that you claim you have or that you do really have? Because this is where the little wake-up call that can appear once you realize that, okay, I claim this to be my value, but I spend 90% of my time in this other area. And it often happens with work and family. Many people claim family to be one of their values, one of the most important things for them. But are they spending time with their family? Are they spending quality time with their loved ones? And how much of their time are they spending with them? So this is also something that can show you like where a little misalignment can appear. And I do understand we all need to work, and that's absolutely okay. But with the time that we do have, how we distribute it between the things that are important to us. So either go through this exercise as Karolina showed us, use some reflection questions to uncover your real values. These might be as easy or as simple like what energizes you, what drains you, what you are protecting, and what is important for you.
If you've ever heard of the big ass calendar, I'm a big proponent of it because you look at the whole year ahead. That's the perfect scheduling tool for you to take a look and say, hey, I need to commit to a family dinner if you want to create a better relationship. Just set it ahead of time so that you don't lose that momentum that you're creating.
Yeah. And so we are not talking about huge shifts in your life to make it from one day to the next, or start from next Monday or from the new year. More of it, try to think about the ways that you can bring more alignment into one area of your life right now again. Because this is the moment, right? This is the moment that we can do something. So what is this one simple action that could help you feel more aligned? And we've covered why alignment is crucial for happy and content life. It boosts self-trust. Because the more you choose what matters, the more you believe in yourself. Because then the gap that I talked about between the beliefs and the actions is closing. And that is the true foundation for the life that feels good inside.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode on Moment to Pause and allowing us to take you through the house of alignment. We will see you next time.
Thank you for being here.